Look closely at the people around you for a moment, and then look inward. What if I told you that most of what you believe about your own decisions is not actually true? That your mind, right now, is quietly editing reality to make you feel safe, competent, and in control. You are not choosing as freely as you think. You are responding to invisible psychological forces that operate long before conscious thought ever appears. Every day, people defend opinions they didn't logically form, stay attached to situations that harm them, and repeat patterns they swear they want to escape. Not because they are weak, but because the human brain is wired for emotional survival, not truth. It avoids discomfort, protects identity, and prioritizes familiarity over well-being, and it does this silently, efficiently, without asking for permission. Here is the unsettling part. Once you see these mechanisms, you can never unsee them. You will start noticing why certain words control rooms, why silence makes people uncomfortable, why rejection feels physical, and why confidence often matters more than competence. You will recognize how people reveal their fears without saying a word, and how your own reactions expose needs you didn't know were there. This is not entertainment. This is psychological reality, observed in therapy rooms, relationships, workplaces, and moments of quiet self-reflection. What you are about to hear will challenge how you understand human behavior, including your own. And if you stay until the end, you may realize something deeply uncomfortable yet freeing. Most of your struggles were never personal, they were psychological. The human mind is not designed as a neutral observer of reality. Its primary function is protection, not truth-seeking. From an early age, the brain learns to filter information in a way that preserves emotional stability, identity, and a sense of control. When faced with facts that threaten self-image, beliefs, or emotional security, the mind automatically distorts, minimizes, or outright rejects them. This is not a conscious choice. It is an unconscious defense mechanism built into psychological survival. People often believe they want honesty, but what they truly seek is reassurance. Truth becomes acceptable only when it does not create inner conflict. When it does, the brain activates defenses such as denial, rationalization, and selective attention. This is why individuals can stay in harmful relationships, defend false narratives, or repeat destructive habits while intellectually knowing better. Emotional safety overrides logical accuracy. Even memory is shaped by this protective function. The mind edits past experiences to reduce guilt, shame, or regret, often rewriting events to appear more favorable. In this way, reality becomes subjective, adjusted to support inner equilibrium. Understanding this shifts the way you view behavior, including your own. Resistance to truth is rarely arrogance or ignorance. It is fear disguised as certainty. Most human decisions are made emotionally long before logic is invited into the process. The brain first asks, "How does this make me feel?" and only afterward searches for reasons that justify that feeling. What people call reasoning is often a post-decision narrative, a story constructed to make an emotional choice appear thoughtful, responsible, or intelligent. This happens so quickly that the individual genuinely believes logic led the way. Emotions act as shortcuts for decision-making because they evolved to protect survival. Fear pushes avoidance, desire pulls action, and comfort maintains familiarity. Once the emotional direction is set, the mind selectively gathers evidence that supports it, ignoring or dismissing contradictory information. This explains why two people can look at the same facts and reach completely different conclusions while both feeling certain they are right. Rationalization also protects self-image. Admitting that a decision was driven by insecurity, attachment, or fear threatens the ego. So the brain reframes emotional impulses as practical choices, moral principles, or intellectual judgments. Understanding this mechanism is not meant to shame human behavior, but to clarify it. Awareness creates a pause between emotion and action, and in that pause, real choice finally becomes possible. Social validation plays a far greater role in shaping human identity than most people are willing to admit. From early childhood, the brain learns which behaviors earn approval and which invite rejection, and this conditioning quietly molds personality, beliefs, and self-expression. Long before personal values are consciously formed, the nervous system is trained to seek acceptance, because social belonging has always meant psychological and physical safety. As a result, many choices that feel personal are actually social responses. People adjust opinions in groups, soften truths to avoid conflict, and abandon authentic desires to maintain connection. Even values are often borrowed from the environments that rewarded them. When approval is withdrawn, discomfort appears not because a value was violated, but because belonging feels threatened. This is why criticism can feel deeply personal, even when it is not. Over time, the desire to be accepted can override inner truth. Individuals may lose clarity about what they genuinely believe versus what keeps them socially secure. The brain associates validation with survival, so it prioritizes fitting in over standing alone. Recognizing this influence is psychologically liberating. It allows a person to separate authentic values from conditioned behavior and begin forming an identity rooted in self-respect rather than external approval. The brain is deeply attached to predictability because certainty feels safe to the nervous system, even when that certainty comes with pain. Familiar discomfort is easier for the mind to manage than unfamiliar peace because the unknown demands adaptation, vulnerability, and risk. This is why people remain in toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and self-defeating routines while fully aware of their harm. The pain is known, rehearsed, and psychologically mapped. Predictability allows the brain to conserve energy. When outcomes are familiar, the mind does not have to stay alert or learn new patterns. Change, even positive change, activates threat responses because it disrupts mental expectations. The brain interprets uncertainty as danger, not opportunity. As a result, discomfort becomes normalized and relief becomes suspicious. This attachment often disguises itself as loyalty, patience, or realism. In truth, it is fear of emotional instability. People may sabotage growth because improvement requires leaving the known self behind. Understanding this pattern explains why advice alone rarely creates change. The brain must feel safer in uncertainty than in familiar pain. Only when emotional security is rebuilt does the mind loosen its grip on predictability and allow genuine transformation to occur. Awareness alone does not automatically change behavior. In many cases, it simply makes people more skilled at defending their existing patterns. Real change begins only when awareness creates discomfort that threatens the ego's carefully constructed self-image. The ego's primary function is to maintain a sense of identity, competence, and moral consistency. When new insight aligns with that image, it is accepted easily. When it challenges it, resistance appears immediately. People can understand their habits, trauma, and flaws intellectually for years without altering behavior. This happens because insight remains emotion. Ally safe. True awareness becomes transformative only when it exposes responsibility, contradiction, or self-deception. At that point, the mind must choose between preserving ego comfort or adjusting behavior to restore internal integrity. This psychological tension is what drives growth. Defensiveness, denial, and minimization often appear just before meaningful change. They signal that awareness has reached a sensitive point. The ego resists not because the information is false, but because accepting it would require loss of a familiar identity. When individuals tolerate this discomfort instead of escaping it, awareness becomes action. Change is not motivated by knowledge alone, but by the courage to let an outdated self-image collapse. When you strip away comforting illusions and social narratives, one truth remains. Human behavior is rarely accidental. Every reaction, attachment, and decision is shaped by invisible psychological forces operating beneath awareness. Once you understand this, you stop chasing control over people and start mastering understanding of others and of yourself. That understanding is power. The strongest individuals are not those who react less, but those who see more. They recognize when emotion is disguising itself as logic, when fear is calling itself loyalty, and when validation is masquerading as identity. They no longer confuse familiarity with safety or awareness with growth. Instead, they accept discomfort as the price of clarity. Psychological maturity begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What part of me is being protected?" In that shift, blame dissolves, patterns become visible, and real choice emerges. You cannot control the human mind, but you can understand it. And once you do, you stop being controlled by it.